Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the quarterly Tech 400 webinar. I am Callie Boatwright, President and CEO of the Greater North Fulton Chamber, and thank you for joining us for this virtual event. Today, you will hear from industry experts on technology designed to better understand consumer travel patterns, customer journey data, and connected vehicles, and how they will impact you and your business. If you have questions during the presentation, please submit them in the Q&A, and we will ask any questions at the end of the program. Before we get to today's program, I want to recognize and thank our Tech 400 sponsor. Our sponsor for the quarter is Gwinnett Technical College. Gwinnett Technical College is a great partner, not only for Tech 400, but also for sponsoring the Chamber's new regional jobs board, northfultonjobs.com. Gwinnett Technical College strives to advance the knowledge of individuals to enrich lives and develop workforce opportunities, and it is both my honor and privilege to serve as part of their foundation board. It is also my pleasure now to introduce our moderator, Dr. Glen Cannon. Dr. Cannon serves as the president of Gwinnett Technical College. He is the third president in the 35-year history of Gwinnett Tech, Georgia's second largest technical college. He assumed this leadership role in September 2014. Dr. Cannon has led Gwinnett Tech to record growth with a 30% increase in enrollment since 2014. Through the combined admissions of credit academic programs, adult ed, and business and industry training, the college serves more than 22,000 students each year. With the support of the Gwinnett Technical College Foundation, the college opened its Launch Point initiative in the spring of 2018. Launch Point is a collaborative effort to assist students with internships, apprenticeships, and entrepreneurial education and support. Dr. Cannon, we thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate Gwinnett Technical College and your support of the Chamber. I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you for all you're doing for us.
Well, thank you, Callie, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Tech 400 and the Chamber and Callie and Stacy, all the group for continuing to host these type of events where we can all work to stay up on the ever-changing and latest technology. Our goal is to ensure that our area remains a hotspot for technology companies that want to locate here, and also for our existing companies to continue to excel. And in ensuring our area has a qualified and sustainable technology workforce, and those two things have to go together. They have to be, you have to be able to provide the initial qualified workforce, but the key is, can you provide to all companies in the area a sustainable qualified workforce? And that's why our North Fulton location in Alpharetta, I hope you know, we're right across from the Avalon. That's why that location was put there. It was put there on behalf of the Technical College System of Georgia, but the main impetus behind that being there was the North Fulton Chamber and the business community. So we've been there now, and we've almost maxed out that space, looking to expand the campus even more. But since this is about technology, I thought I'd take one quick second to brag on a couple of recent events. Our cybersecurity program just received the National Center for Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense accreditation from the NSA and Department of Homeland Security. We're one of only 2 colleges in our system, and the only in Metro Atlanta, to have that designation. And I know if there's any cyber companies on the call, or cyber companies in our area, they're looking for employees that come from an institution that has that designation. So that was hard fought, and we've got that now. After a couple of years in our cybersecurity program. Also, we are one of the 2 founding members of the Georgia Cloud Academy. We just finished our first pilot class in the AWS Amazon Web Services platform. We will be adding more platforms as we go through the program. We're starting our second class now. So we're proud of those 2 recent events. But today we're here to focus on a couple of existing technologies that will get us closer to, hopefully, to the Jetsons lifestyle that I was promised as in my youth. And I'm running out of years, so we got to get this thing going, guys. But connected vehicles and travel tracing technologies. And the connected vehicles, I just can't wait for that. My wife still thinks when we pull up to a red light, if I'll move up a little closer, it'll change. And I say, oh, I wish it was that way. But I think we're getting there. I think we're going to be there soon. I'm not going to sit there on Roswell Road in the early morning at 6 o'clock going to work with no one within a mile waiting on the light to change. So I know we've got a lot of things coming really quickly. But both those technologies, our Gwinnett Tech automotive program, and I want to remind you that we still have right now, for another couple of months, the only Mercedes-Benz affiliated and authorized training center, and that's on our Lawrenceville campus. And we appreciate our great partner, Mercedes-Benz. But all our automotive programs have been integrating this connected vehicle training into our curriculum over the past couple of years, as we have the newest technologies in our hotel, restaurant, and tourism management programs. So those kind of things are why our system was the first in the nation and remains one of the few that warranties our students. If you hire one of our students, we give you a skill set that we promise those students will have. And if they don't have that, then we will retrain them to your satisfaction. I am now in my X number of years, I won't say, in the profession, but with the system over 25 years and in technology, and none of the 6 schools I've been at have we ever had to access that warranty. Our students are ready to go and they're ready to work for you. We'd be glad to help you also with your current employees for any extended and continuing education training they have. But today, we've got 2 impressive technology experts with us, and I can't wait to hear about these great innovations that are happening. Our first panelist is Bryan Mulligan, president and founder of Applied Information, with more than 18 years of experience leading the transportation industry in technical innovation. Bryan established Applied Information in 2011 to meet the need for a technology company that can apply new wireless Internet of Things, cloud computing, and connected vehicle technologies into modern solutions for the transportation sector. Bryan, we thank you for joining us today, and I can't wait to hear what you have going on.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the introduction, and I think you could probably do this presentation better than I can. But in that's a great vision and work that you guys are doing up at Gwinnett Tech. I'll start off by telling you a little bit about Applied Information and why we came into being. I've been a serial entrepreneur all my career. I was in my 20s when I last had a proper job, as I like to say, that when somebody else paid my salary. But I've been in this transportation technology business for more than 20 years. And what's come about is that it's a unique opportunity, and I understand connected vehicles, connected and tracing is the topic of today. And what I'm going to talk about is possibly some things that you haven't thought of, including what happens when you pull up to a traffic light, and the corollary, which is what happens when you go through a traffic light that's red, and how connected vehicle technology is going to solve that problem, and what we're doing about implementing that solution. I mean, if we can drive rovers around Mars and not have them drive into rocks, surely we can figure out how to make motor cars not drive into each other. And so largely the technology problems are solved. I'm going to talk about those mainly. But now we've got to get to the social, political, organizational, government, and so forth. Those are the kind of challenge areas that we can all work on. But where I'm sitting here today is called the IATL. It's the Infrastructure Automotive Technology Laboratory. And this is stood up here in Summit Place off Hainesbridge Road here in Alpharetta. And as we like to brag, this is the world epicenter of connected vehicle technology, where we've got folks from all over the world following what we're doing here, testing their equipment here, and focused on deploying applications, and particularly deploying technologies that are led by the private sector. Now that's quite an interesting topic all of its own, the relationship between the private sector and the public sector, because for 100 years, the public sector has built concrete and asphalt roads. So we're very used to the idea that that's a role for government. But when it comes to technology, then it becomes much more complicated. And so, for example, we all use cell phones and the internet and so forth. And what would that look like if it was run by the government? And that's where the tipping point in transportation is how does the public sector and the private sector collaborate and work together to deliver the promise of saving lives, the 4 things we do: save lives. Up to 40,000 people a year are killed on the roads in the United States. Let's save those lives. Make the traffic better. We all want to drive down Roswell Road where the traffic flows. How do we do that? Drive commerce. How do we make freight work better? How do we give green lights to freight vehicles and so forth? And consequently, how do we help the environment? So that's our mission. And we are proud to have stood up this laboratory, one of the principal sponsors. It's an entirely private sector initiative, so that we can get the car companies, the infrastructure folks, the private sector folks, and the public sector folks all here in Alpharetta. And in fact, the world was going to come at a big annual conference, international conference on July the 27th, obviously with COVID. That's been deferred to next year, but the world is recognized Alpharetta in this role, and we're proud to play our part. In fact, there were apparently, I haven't seen it myself, but there was the front page article in the Atlanta Business Chronicle was based around this facility and the work we're doing here. So you can be sure to read that as well. As I said earlier, if it says nice things about us, then please tell your friends. If it says horrible things about us, then chuck it in the trash. But what I thought I'd do is just instead of having just me talking away here, we've got a couple of short videos which really tell the story of how connected vehicles are going to change our lives, not in the future, but today. And I'll start off with a video about standing up the IATL, and we had automotive guys and technology guys and things coming here in January. This was January this year, and all expressing this business of, this is a group of friends who are going to change the world. So this is the story of the opening.
IATL, it's the world's first lab to help smart devices talk to traffic signals.
Opening today, the lab built by Applied Information.
IATL.
IATL.
Applied Information, they're at the forefront of connected vehicle technology, really, as far as I can tell, in the world.
This facility is at the epicenter of showing this in practice.
Not only can people come and test their equipment, they can actually experience using those abilities out in normal traffic.
My first duty is to welcome you all today to the Infrastructure Automotive Technology Laboratory.
Not so long ago, the only thing that actually connected us was the pavement and the rubber in the wheels of our cars. But now we have a technology that will force us to actually do a lot more together.
The point of a DOT is to do 2 things, to save lives and to make people's lives better. And I think that technology is the best tool in our toolbox to make that happen.
We can have these vehicles talk to each other in crowded intersections so that they can deliver safety messages.
Local leadership, they have been able to build this into an innovative community. Not just a place where business is done, but where innovation takes place, where creativity takes place, and a community that thrives in that environment.
I love the people that are up here on this panel, bringing the traffic engineering world together with the automotive industry. It's really never been done.
This is a group of friends who are actually committing to try and make the world a better place.
Our motivation behind connected vehicle technology is very simple. About 5 years ago, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration put out a study that said connected vehicle technology can prevent 80 to 90% of all crashes. 80 to 90%.
The most dangerous thing that our loved ones do every single day is get in a vehicle.
People or objects such as bicycles, cyclists, people who ride scooters, who are not in vehicles at the time but are still vulnerable, they need to be protected as well. We do need to care for everybody who is in the vehicles, but we need to care for all of those people who aren't and who could be the victims of being struck by a vehicle.
I firmly believe that 10 years from now, when people are totally used to their cars talking to the intersection and getting that kind of data, they'll wonder why they didn't have it before.
The cumulative good work of this group here today, as a father of 3 kids, the safety efforts, absolutely, it's huge.
Let's not be scared of the future. Let's embrace it.
So that gives you a sense about the scale and scope of the kind of things that we're doing here in Alpharetta, up in North Fulton, and that how the folks from around the world are looking at this area, because it's not only this laboratory here, but the surrounding area in Alpharetta, helped funded by the North Fulton CRD, amongst others, and the city of Alpharetta to deliver these connected vehicle applications. There's 75 square miles of laboratory of where you, in fact, all you guys watching can experience connected vehicles. And so what will connected vehicles do for you? Essentially, the idea is that they're radio transmitters on the and receivers on the intersection, and they're radio transmitters and receivers on the cars or the vehicles. The cars can all talk to each other. That's the automotive business. We're an infrastructure company, so we not understand all of that, but our focus is what's called V2I, vehicle to infrastructure. So what that does is that helps prevent you from running a red light, plus it can tell the intersections that you're approaching. So now you won't be dependent on the loops in the road, but Roswell Road, the intersection there, will know you're approaching and it'll turn the lights green for you. And so what we have done is that, the car companies are all working on putting this technology in the cars, but there are 200 million cell phones that are in cars right now. So what we've done is we've stood up the technology to have your cell phone talk to the traffic intersections, and that's all working in Alpharetta. So it's still being tested and running out. But if you want to experience that, you can actually download an app called Travel Safely, the Glance Travel Safely. It's a free app, and we'll show you what it does. There's just a short little video that shows Travel Safely and the kind of things that you can expect.
Meet Travel Safely, an app that helps you get where you're going safely. Travel Safely works if you're driving, walking, biking, wheeling, scooting, or skating. Get real-time audio notifications. Red light. So you can focus on your surroundings. Get notified when you're approaching a red light, or when it's time to get ready for green. Get ready for green. Travel Safely works with local emergency vehicles, helping them respond to calls faster. Get notified when an emergency vehicle is approaching. Emergency vehicle front. Or when to share the road with your two-wheeled friend. Cyclist. Vehicle approaching cyclist. Travel Safely tells you when you're passing a school or work zone, and if you need to slow it down. So whether you're on the road or just crossing, pedestrian. Every time you open Travel Safely, you're helping make a better commuting experience for all of us. Together. Download the Travel Safely app today and join our community of users committed to making our roads safer.
That's Travel Safely, and as you see, you can start experimenting and experiencing connected vehicles today. And so the kind of things that it does is, we all stood at the traffic light and went, whoa, 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 there's an emergency vehicle approaching, and you can't tell where it's coming from and where it's going. And now the speakers in your car say emergency vehicle approaching from the right or the left or so forth. So there are all sorts of applications that we are delivering, and I'm passionate about it. I can carry on talking about the applications and what's available today. We're doing some really innovative work here for cyclists, making the cyclist experience better and safer for cyclists in cities and so forth. But what's important? What pays for these systems and why should you do them? And it's the concept of what we call day one applications. And there are a number of day one applications, but a key one is getting paramedics, especially in the times of COVID where health response is actually top of everybody's minds. But heart attack, stroke, and accident victims have a significantly better survivability if paramedics get to them quickly. So what we do is we use connected vehicle technology to give the emergency vehicles and the paramedics green lights and bring everybody else safely to a halt. So a little statistic out of Marietta, the systems also work in Marietta and Sandy Springs, downtown Atlanta, and here in Alpharetta. But in Marietta, where they've been running the system for 4 years, they haven't had a collision between an emergency vehicle and a member of the public in 4 years. And that's a tangible benefit of connected vehicles. Here in Alpharetta, they've been running the system for about 6 months. And the fire chief here is very proud and pleased with the way that technology has made the world better for the fire truck operators and the emergency responders and the paramedics. So here it is in his own words. So I'm not bragging on what he's got, he's bragging himself.
I'm Scott McCullers. I'm the Fire Operations Chief for the City of Alpharetta. The traffic preemption system here in Alpharetta is installed on all of our traffic lights here locally. We have a transmitter on our apparatus which allows us to basically get a green light as we're responding on incidents throughout the city. The preemption system changes the light directly in front of them, but it also starts staging the other lights ahead of them so that traffic flows better. We've had the system online for about 6 months now, and during that 6 months period, we have realized about an 18% drop in our response times during that time frame. When you're gaining 10 to 12 seconds per traffic light on average, it really has an impact on the response time. We've transitioned from an older system that was infrared or line of sight to a newer system that's GPS based, and it seems to be working great.
All right, so that gives you a sense of this connected vehicle technology actually delivering value on the first day. And so I was going to touch on two aspects in the time that I have left. One is, what is the future? And the future is obviously hard to predict, but the only thing that we know is that if you think the pace of change in technology is fast now, stand by. The pace of change in technology now is the slowest it's going to be for the rest of your lives. So it's only accelerating. And the idea of that somehow we're all going to catch our breath and press pause is just not the reality. Connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, self-parking vehicles, automated delivery robots, drone delivery, any number of things is on the way. And I drive a car that the latest software upgrade now stops at the traffic lights and goes when the traffic lights turn green. It does it all with vision. And you'd think, well, that would have been impossible. It's so disconcerting when the car actually drives itself, and it drives itself pretty well. It drives itself perfectly for 99% of the time, and the rest of the time it's going to kill you. So that's always sort of a joke, but it's not really a joke. That's the nature of technology as we ring it out. And so we've got this challenge in front of us to think societally, how much better does the accident rate have to be before we'll turn control of the cars over to a computer? Because let's say, we kill 40,000 people a year right now, more or less. If I lowered that to 4,000, do you think that would be a good idea? And everybody would say yes, except I'd say, yeah, but the problem is this. The 4,000 people that we kill are going to be different people to the 40,000 people that we would have killed. So now is it okay? And so these are the kinds of discussions we have to have as the public and private sector to make sure that we're educating and bringing everybody along. And that's one of the roles of the IATL app in Alpharetta, is to this public education. We drive people around and show them this technology. Download the app and experience it yourself. See, do you think it goes bop, bop, red light too early? Does it irritate you? What should it do? Should it apply the brakes? These are all the kinds of questions that are coming at us. And the other thing that's coming at us is that, you know, for 100 years, the government, local governments and central and states and so forth have focused on purchasing concrete and asphalt. It's going to be quite different as we deploy technology in the infrastructure space. And so, for example, at Alpharetta and so forth, all that runs on, you were talking about AWS, all that runs on cloud computing, where the Alpharetta just got a login from a browser, as opposed to installing the software on their computers, which is how it would have been done a couple of years ago. So we're all facing this massive change, and it's just really exciting. And we're just so proud to be part of the North Fulton Chamber of Commerce and be to plying our trade here. And as we say, we're changing the world one traffic intersection at a time, starting here in Alpharetta, Georgia. I think that's, I'm going to give you a minute of your time back, and hopefully, yeah, I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have, and by all means, come visit, and we'll show you around.
Well, thank you, Bryan, and I want to thank you for sharing what Applied Information is developing at the ATL lab, and we know these solutions are definitely going to improve our safety, reliability, our mobility, and I was just thinking about just the fuel savings alone. If we could get traffic synced, whether that's electric fuel or until I don't think we'll be completely away from fossil fuel in my lifetime, maybe, I don't know. But the savings either way would just be a great benefit, plus the safety. Just appreciate the information, and we're going to have questions at the end, but our next panelist is Chuck Branch, the CEO of NextSite. Chuck has spent the past 20 years providing research and marketing services to the public sector, also commercial developers and commercial real estate firms. His background includes research, consulting, project management, and product implementation. He's a graduate of the University of Alabama, that's fine, and is a member of the International Council of Shopping Centers. I joke, I spent about 3.5 years in Alabama, and there's a great educational system over there. People don't realize that. But Chuck, we're looking forward to hearing all about your consumer travel patterns and what you're doing in your business.
Thank you, Dr. Cannon. Roll Tide. We also have a fairly decent football team over here. Let me see if I can get my screen shared so that everybody can view some of the outputs that we put together on behalf of clients. There we go. So again, appreciate the opportunity, appreciate the introduction. NextSite is not a technology firm. We are smart enough to leverage the people and experts at our partner firms to sort of use technology and use data to implement site selection opportunities and to proactively recruit commercial development to the communities that we work with across the country. We've been very fortunate to partner with Georgia Power as our largest client and some of the other Southern Company subsidiaries. And to date, we have worked or continue to work with over 80 communities throughout the state of Georgia. Several years ago, we started focusing on different technologies that allowed us to sort of change the way commercial development had been done in the past. Years ago, and up until maybe 6 to 12 months ago, commercial developers and tenant reps and brokers would typically get in their car, drive to a market, and try to identify whether or not that market worked for certain types of commercial development. What we have been able to do is take a lot of that work and on the front end, make it easier for them to determine not only if the market fits for the certain concepts, but be able to compare that market to other communities across the country and the likelihood that a certain concept would show a propensity to locate in those markets. And what we've done to facilitate that conversation is partner with really good technology firms that allow us to track, and I will say this repeatedly, anonymously, people's mobile devices. And so I'm going to walk you through an example using downtown Roswell. We're able to, using the software and data tools from our partner Placer AI, and while there is some artificial intelligence involved with it, the AI actually stands for actionable intelligence. But we can take any asset, retailer, a corporate location, a manufacturing facility, and we can create a polygon around that area, and it allows us to determine the consumer travel patterns and the customer journey to and from that location. Roswell has been a client of ours for several years now. We have analyzed all of the major shopping corridors in Roswell. Today I'm going to use downtown Roswell. So by taking the downtown area, creating a polygon around that area, we can identify, and this is for the 12-month period preceding COVID. And the reason being is that we've also done quite a bit of COVID analysis in the different markets that we work in. So we went back and said, if you're the city of Roswell and you're going to continue to recruit additional commercial development opportunities as we move through the pandemic and out of the pandemic, hopefully sooner rather than later, we need to be able to show what Roswell looked like before COVID-19 impacted our lives. And so we took the trailing 12 months prior to what we consider the first official case in the United States, ran that analysis and identified that downtown Roswell had approximately 473,000 unique customers that visited, with a total number of visitors of 1.29, almost 1.3 million. So that the average unique customer or customer was visiting almost 2.8 times, almost 3 times. Through that data, not only are we able to track those mobile devices coming to downtown, but we're also able to look at the number of visits based on the time of day, the day of the week, and then what is that trade area coverage. So much of what we do from a commercial development standpoint is identifying how far are consumers coming from to visit an area as a primary shopping destination or entertainment area, or in this case with downtown, typically it's going to be the restaurant component. And this works not only in major markets like Roswell and Alpharetta and the first and second tier Atlanta metro communities, but we do a lot of work in more rural communities where clearly the trade area coverage by distance increases significantly. We can also visualize where those people are coming from. And again, this sort of lends itself to our ability to go beyond what was the old radius and drive time analysis for commercial development and retail development and build custom trade areas, again, to capture that larger group of people who are using, in this case, downtown Roswell. And we're able to do that by tracking them from their home location and their work location. And I will once again reiterate that it is anonymous. I cannot tell you that a certain person was visiting a certain location and drill down to their contact information, all anonymized. We can also then start looking at what are those customer travel patterns, what road networks are they taking into and out of a particular market that they are visiting. What this has also allowed us to do is start doing analysis for our communities and for our partners and for our end users that takes us beyond the retail and commercial development opportunities to starting to understand labor shed analysis as it relates to the workforce, the ability to understand commute patterns of the workforce. We've started working with several state tourism and park organizations who are wanting to better understand the impact that COVID has had from a general tourism standpoint But from a state park standpoint, the analysis that we've done in a couple of states shows that a lot of people during COVID are renting RVs or purchasing RVs and are traveling to state parks as an alternative entertainment destination. Then about 4, 5, 6 months ago, we took it to the next level as far as the ability to understand those travel patterns and the customer journey, to the point that we can now tell you the 60 locations that people visited before going to downtown Roswell, and the 60 locations they left and went to after visiting downtown Roswell, so that we're now able to start identifying certain opportunities. Are people who visit downtown Roswell leaving and going shopping at certain locations in Alpharetta, or are they going into downtown Atlanta after being in downtown Roswell? What entities are they visiting? Are there certain recruitment opportunities for additional restaurants? Are they leaving Roswell to go to in this case, Avalon, to go shopping? And can we recruit some of those retailers that they're visiting at Avalon to come to certain shopping center locations within the Roswell market? It also then allows certain shopping centers in Roswell to understand those commute patterns. And do I change my advertising? Do I need to make sure that I'm capturing the attention of those consumers as they're leaving one area of Roswell and going elsewhere? The other thing that we're seeing from our communities, and we did a discussion a couple of weeks ago with Roswell, and that was, how do you take this type of data and incorporate it into your social media campaigns? The other thing that we can do is we can also start identifying what are the favorite places that those consumers who are going to downtown Roswell, where do they want to go when they're looking at all of these different categories of shopping, whether it's dining or apparel. What grocery stores are they visiting? And if they're visiting grocery stores, are they bypassing certain grocery locations? That becomes an advertising or a social media campaign for that location that they're bypassing. Are there infill opportunities? I know we've been working with Roswell on bringing a grocery store to downtown. So what were the opportunities for those people that were working and living in downtown? Where were they going to do their shopping? Did that impact the recruitment of a grocery option to the downtown Roswell market? We can also do it across home improvement. We've seen a tremendous amount of traffic increase to home improvement stores in places like IKEA and Home Goods, because with everybody having extra time on their hands, staying at home and working from home, there's been a significant increase in home improvement work. And also you're seeing a lot of people spending money buying new couches and buying new furniture and replacing old items in their homes. We can also track it to the leisure and entertainment sector. It's one of the things in our work with Roswell that we're really trying to focus on, is how can we bring additional entertainment options to the market, because everybody's leaving and going to these other areas that have become very popular, like Topgolf. And then of course the superstores, which have been sort of capturing a lot of additional traffic during the last 8 months. Then 3 months ago, we took it one more step, and this really started playing into the social media aspect. And that is that we can now tell you the top 40 zip codes where people came from prior to going to downtown. And so it significantly improves the ability to target your advertising message through, whether it's print, television, but particularly through different social media apps. So then we started looking back and saying, okay, we looked at the trailing 12 months. We know that COVID is having a significant impact, whether it's downtown, it's to a major shopping center, it's to a mall, it's to an entertainment complex. And so on behalf of Roswell, we have gone through and we have analyzed the impact of COVID. And so this is running the same report, pulling the same type of data from that first case in the United States around January 21st. and running it through the end of March, beginning of April, when a lot of the economies and states and communities started shutting down. And you can see the tremendous fall off as you get into the middle of March, latter part of March, with the number of visitors coming to downtown Roswell. Still pretty much the same picture as far as time of day and day of week. Those visitors were coming into the market, but the number of visits decreased significantly. The time that they were spending in the market, which we found interesting, did not change tremendously. And how far they were coming. And a lot of that probably had to do with people that were commuting in from outside and still going to their offices early during the pandemic period. Then what we're doing on behalf of Roswell and our other clients is we're tracking the rebound. How quickly are people turning around? You can see as we got into the end of April, 1st of May, when cities and the state started to reopen, we start seeing a rebound in traffic. And as we got into June, we had almost recaptured on a bi-weekly basis the same sort of travel patterns and the number of customers coming into downtown Roswell. But then as numbers started to increase again on the positive cases, we started seeing another decrease. And so we will continue to track the rebound period. September 30th, right around the corner. We're doing quarterly updates on behalf of our clients. We'll continue to track that impact and the rebound of the consumer travel patterns based on what has happened with the pandemic and COVID. And that is what we do and how we do it. And we're very excited to be working with George Power and Roswell, and we appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit about what NextSite does.
Well, Chuck, we really appreciate that. That is some extremely, click the right button here.
Some people call it scary.
Well, I was just going to use the word paranoid now, but scary's fine too in there. I'm going to buy a burner phone on the way home, that's for sure. But but no, I can see how that information would just be invaluable to your clients and other businesses. And I was just thinking how that could be totally used in the education world as brick and mortar. We start building, you're going to see an extremely large decrease in brick and mortar being built in higher education, especially.
I agree. And if you don't mind, let me say real quick what I should have mentioned. Our partnership is with Roswell Inc. and Steve Stroud has been a great partner to NextSite, and we really appreciate the opportunity to work with him and his staff.
Well, I'm going to put you at the top of our list when we get ready to look at a new facility next time, because that kind of
love to help you.
Invaluable to know student traffic patterns, and I'm sure other businesses as well. But now we appreciate both panelists, but I'm going to turn it over now to our fearless leader, Callie Boatright, our North Fulton Chamber president, and let her kick off any Q&A that people might have asked. But thank you again, both of you.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it very much. You know, there are a lot of questions, and I know when we started talking about this program, I think one of the things that people get nervous about, to Glenn's point, is that Big Brother is watching, and that's kind of been the concern all the way along. I think both of you have really dispelled the privacy issue, saying that, and I know, Chuck, you mentioned several times, this is a very it's capturing groups of information, not individual information. So I believe we've already tackled that, but I did want to reach out just on a couple of questions that were provided to us earlier. If you have a question, please feel free to put it in our chat box. So our first question for both of you gentlemen is, will the consumers opt to not be traceable? Is that an option to not be traced?
From our standpoint, our partner Placer is actually inserting their software development kits, SDKs, into several hundred apps. There's also the location services on particular phones. There's great care because of government regulation to keep that data anonymized. At this point, I think if somebody wanted to opt out completely, they'd have to turn off their location devices and turn off the location tracking that comes with the different apps that they've downloaded.
Got it. Bryan?
Yeah, I think I'm going to separate government regulation and oversight. That's a thing. And I'll tell you why. In the traffic business, we as consumers, we won't buy safety. It's demonstrated over and over again. When the car companies first came out with seatbelts as an optional package, you paid a couple of extra $100 for a seatbelt. Nobody bought it. And the reason is we're all certain about one thing. We're certain that accidents happen to other people. So they don't actually happen to us. So it's merged over the years. Now we have NHTSA and things that safety oversight and some of these privacy oversights is a role for government. So there's that aspect to be looked at, and that's, we'll work through all of that. But there's another aspect, and that goes to delivering day one applications that are compelling while retaining the public trust. So for example, you download Travel Safely. We tell you, in our conditions of service, we actually never record your location, sue us if we break your trust and so forth. But what we do is we enable, because you're driving your bicycle or your car and you're talking to the traffic light works better for you. Now it's for you as a person to decide, do I want to do that or not? Because we're delivering value to you in exchange for you trusting us. And so, yes, there's always the business of opting out, but then the world's more dangerous and it doesn't work so well for you. And I think that's, one of the things I also like to say is that, we've got thousands of years of developing a culture in how to speak and exchange information. We've got hundreds of years of industrialization, and we've got 10 years of the internet underneath us. So this is all just very new, and we're just going to have to give ourselves some time to work all of this out. And then a sensible middle ground led by the private sector will emerge, where the private sector obtains the trust of the majority of people. I think that's where it ends up. And on the left-hand side, for the rest, there's government oversight.
Got it. Got it. So Bryan, since I have you, what is the cost to install the technology?
Roughly speaking, it's $5,000 an intersection at retail, and $5,000 for a fire truck or police vehicle or so forth. Less for a bus, and there's all kinds of graduations. But what that is that's pennies on the dollar compared with the cost of concrete and asphalt. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, we're all familiar with the interchange at bottom of 400 and 285. And that's $1 billion investment, $1,000 million. And so the business of deploying technology in infrastructure is just much more bang for your buck, and it's pennies on the dollar. And that's where the cities, in fact, are leading the way. We're saying we just want our citizens safer, and we want our fire trucks safer. So we'll do that, deploy the technology, and then all these other applications are being built on top.
Gotcha. Well, and we know that the fire obviously department's already using these to move more rapidly to our homes. So we appreciate that. Chuck, for you, how do retailers use the data to find more customers in the marketplace?
So what we find in many markets, both rural and urban, is that the smaller the store, the less likely they are to understand how far customers are willing to drive to come to their particular market. And I always use the example, my wife owned a children's clothing store for years, and she always felt like her customers were basically the contiguous communities around where we live and where the store was located. And yet when we started using this technology to get a better understanding for her marketing efforts, we started seeing customers that were driving as much as 40, 50, and 70 miles to come to her store because of its uniqueness, one, but because they were coming and shopping at other locations, and while in the area, were coming over and shopping at her store. So it's that, and I'm clearly not a social media marketing specialist, but I do think by being able to understand where your customers are coming from by zip code, it allows you to more closely target similar customers, birds of a feather flock together. So we do a lot of segmentation profiling, understanding the different categories of shoppers and where you find those clusters, and you know there are other shoppers that look like people who are purchasing items from your boutique or your restaurant. You now can more closely focus the message of your social media campaigns.
That makes sense. Certainly allows you to, as a retailer, better target your advertising dollars in a certain area if you're doing newspaper or magazine advertising or billboard. And do you think, obviously you're working with Steve, who's a good friend of ours over at Roswell Inc. as well. So this data is also valuable to local governments, and what kind of uses for them?
Yeah, and typically the communities are our clients. Right now, a lot of that research and analytics is being used to do grant applications, applying for local, state, and federal dollars. We always tell our clients, our focus is, and always has been, how do we grow the tax base? How do we create new jobs? How do we bring new commercial development to your market? We leave it to the local organizations, the chambers of commerce, Main Street, downtown associations, to take our analytics and take the data that we provide and use it as a resource to help your existing businesses grow, but also to create entrepreneurial opportunities when we identify those gaps where you don't have the number of retailers required to meet the demand of the community.
That makes sense. Absolutely. So you're talking about entrepreneurs. I've got several questions from colleges, universities.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious question for both of you. So what kinds of backgrounds would you look for in potential employees? So considering that these technologies are only going to increase, how do our current students best prepare themselves to be attractive job candidates for companies like yours? So Bryan, why don't we go with you first?
That's a great question, because it's changing rapidly. So I would probably answer it like this. There's not a specific learned skill that you need. And the reason being is it's changing so rapidly. You go to, if AWS is the flavor of the month today, Amazon Web Services, it was Amazon's, the fashion. Well, Azure and Google are chasing them. So the business of understanding the technologies, the Internet of Things, the cloud computing in a generalist way, and that applies to electronics and all aspects of technology. Understand the principles that made it successful as opposed to specific skills. That's one thing I would say. The other thing I'd say is focus on your business courses. Focus on the soft skill courses, communication, writing skills, and so forth. Because you can be the world's best technology guy, but if you don't know how to write a proposal, you're not going to get any work. And it's something that's actually just emerged in this COVID experience as we're living this and adapting our business. We're finding that our sales folks, for example, they're very adept at reaching out, phoning people, and so forth. But our engineering folks who are more introspective and introverted, and they're not in the office, they're tending to fade away. And so that's where, we're looking at upskilling our technical folks in customer interaction skills and so forth. So I'd say to the folks who are looking at a technology career, it's not your knowledge of the bits and bytes that's most important, but your understanding of the principles. And so do theoretical courses in applied maths and computational science, and then your soft skills in communications and so forth. That was a long answer to a quick question, but
no, it was great. Chuck's been nodding the whole time. So Chuck, do you have anything to add to that?
I could say ditto. I agree. I think what we see a lot of when we're talking to candidates for different positions, one is if you're on the GIS side and you're technically proficient. So we don't see a lot of people getting GIS degrees, which is the ability to append data to geographic locations and mapping the data and everything. So I think there's going to be greater demand for those people that are studying those different skill sets. The second thing that I would say from personal experience with my own children is if you're a college student, you have to engage socially. My parents always said that college was a social experiment for me, but if you don't have the people skills and the social skills, it's very difficult to be successful. And then the second or third thing, and I would agree with Bryan on this, and that is take English courses and understand how to write. You know, in this day and age, so many people are using their thumbs to type and write, and nobody's sitting down with a pen and a piece of paper or their computer and being able to put legible words together to communicate with prospects and clients, etc. So again, I guess if I picked one of those things, it's engage socially.
You guys sound like me at the dinner table my entire life with my children. So I appreciate all of that very much. We have a lot of questions and we're getting close to the end time. So I really want to be able to have you tell our guests how they can reach you. Bryan, you threw out that you'd love for people to come by and see IATL. Chuck, I know there are folks who are asking questions in here and want to know how to reach you. Mm-hmm. So Chuck, if you can let us know how to reach you.
Sure. Email is cbranch, C as in Chuck, BRANCH at NextSite, NEXTSITE.net. And the only phone that I carry is my cell phone. It's the only number I have. So as long as you don't call me after midnight or before 6 o'clock in the morning, my cell number is 205-218-9652.
That was very generous of you. Thank you, Chuck. Bryan, how about you?
And so you can reach me at Applied Information. That's my day job, as I call it. That's bmulligan at appinfoinc.com. But you can also just through the App Info Inc. Applied Information here in Atlanta website, there's a place for sending a query. Hi, Bryan, that'll find me. And likewise with the IATL, you can just Google the IATL in Alpharetta, and the website will come up, and you can reach me through that as well.
Bryan, super quick, because I know everybody's interested. When will this technology be available in new cars and trucks?
Today's Wednesday, so today's Thursday. So Friday afternoon, download the app. That's where it starts. It's not an event. It's a continuum. Right. But cars that won't drive through red lights. I drive a car that won't drive through red lights right now. And so you can buy that car today. It's going to be in widespread use in 3 years. Laden keeping is going to turn into everybody driving somewhat autonomously. It's right in front of us. It's electric cars. Once you drive an electric car, you'll never drive anything else. So that's 10 years away. No more than that. That's my view.
I love great infomercial through Bryan Mulligan. Thank you very much.
No, gentlemen,
I appreciate it so much. As we close out today's event, I really want to thank our lineup of amazing panelists. We've got, of course, Bryan Mulligan with Applied Information, Chuck Branch with NextSite, along with our moderator, Dr. Glen with Gwinnett Technical College. We cannot offer great programs like this without our sponsors. I, again, want to thank Gwinnett Technical College for their support, and also Synovus, our gold sponsor, for their tremendous support. And Matt McClure, I know you've waited patiently. I appreciate you being on. We'd love to have you just give us a few comments as well.
Well, thank you very much. It's always fascinating when one of the oldest industries in history, banking, can sponsor an event with all these new technologies. And hopefully, I know both panelists talked about regulatory environments. I will tell you that we live in the world of regulation and government oversight. So like anything, entrepreneurs learn to thread the needle between technology and government oversight. And I have no doubt that with folks such as Chuck and Bryan taking these initiatives, that over time we're going to be a much safer overall environment out on the road. So I thank both of them. I thank you for Callie and Mark for allowing Synovus to continue to sponsor these kind of events. They're critical for the bank, helping us make sure that we're not only learning about new technologies, but also being able to support the chamber and our community with such great offerings. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to Synovus. You guys are a great partner. We appreciate your tremendous investment in our chamber and, of course, your continued support. I also wanted to thank our great Tech 400 committee. This is a group of individuals who are invested in making sure that we're getting this great information out to our members. So they are the more technologically adept individuals who are sitting around and thinking of great topics that commoners like myself need to know in the technology world, and we appreciate that very much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. The next chamber event will be virtual on September 29th, when we will focus on transportation with another stellar panel lineup. We'll have Griff Lynch, who is the Executive Director of the Ports Authority, Senator Brandon Beach, Chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, as well as Representative Kevin Tanner, Chairman of the House Transportation Committee. All of this will be moderated by Samir Abdullahi, Deputy Director of Economic Development for Select Fulton. So our thanks to the North Fulton Community Improvement District, Georgia Power, and the Development Authority of Fulton County for sponsoring that event. Finally, don't miss out. If you are a golfer, you're going to want to come join us on October 6th at the Manor Golf and Country Club. Foursomes are sold out, except for 2 sponsorships that remain. After that, we will be sold out for good. If you want to come play tennis, we are offering buy 3, get 1 free, because that's fun for us, because more people will come. So if you want to join us for that, please contact us here at the chamber and support us in that way. In the meantime, I wish y'all stay dry out there and stay healthy. And I thank you for joining us. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Callie.
Thank you.